suffering. So much suffering is out there in the world. I don't even know the numbers of how many people are suffering in silence, because I think that number must be very, very high. People who don't want to talk about their problems or pains and issues with other people. Maybe out of shame, fear, regrets, whatever it is. There's all kinds of reasons why people are suffering in silence and never really find their way out of the maze of their own suffering. Well, today I wanted to talk about a concept that is vitally important in order for us to individually improve the overall experience that we're having while we're on this planet. Because so many of the issues that we face are mental by nature. They'll exist in our consciousness. And as long as we are unable to perceive it from this angle, we might blame circumstances, or we might just feel trapped in our own suffering. We just can't seem to break free from it. Something is dragging us down every single day and we just don't know what it is. There's many people that live like that. And at periods of my life, I've been there, where for some reason I just didn't feel good until I started to deeply reflect and really analyze what the hell is going on here. So this video's title is suggesting exactly what it's going to be all about. The realization that there is no time. There are no days. Just existence, pure awareness, the everlasting now. You see, time, days, physicality itself is an illusion. But specifically, if we go to time and days, well, these are created by mankind. But they don't exist, generally speaking. And so therefore they shouldn't mess with your mind, as it does for many people. Really think about that, because most of the time, interestingly enough, we don't think about it at all. We go through our lives being driven by time and what day it is. But if you stop and think about it for a second, there's no clock out there in the universe with numbers telling us what the time is. There's nothing in the universe that says today it's Monday, tomorrow it's Tuesday, yesterday it was Sunday, for example. There's actually nothing there. Nowhere in the universe is it giving us these days. We have created these days in order to function more effectively in this physical reality, because obviously these kinds of labels can help sort of organize stuff. But what if all of that becomes part of entrapping our own infinite awareness in all these delusions of ours? You see, people would say time flies, or they feel bad about time going so fast, or they feel bad about what day it is. Oh, it's Monday, I gotta go to work. And then when it's Friday evening, they're like, oh, it's Friday, last day for work, and then we're gonna relax throughout the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. It's all in reaction to stuff that isn't even real in the end. You see, so subtle is this trap that a great many people throughout this world take their own lives simply because they take time seriously. They take existence from the wrong angle. So what I've seen with people that actually do end up taking their lives, many times it's due to either unresolved traumas or suffering in their minds, obviously, based on things that have happened to them. This is a very, very key part about suicidal depression, I've noticed. It's that at times they may not even realize this themselves anymore, but in many cases you can notice that they are upset and disturbed emotionally about stuff that may have happened to them, that traumatized them, that hurt them so deeply that they're unable to break free from that pain. But the reason why it keeps hurting them, whether they realize it or not, is because they're allowing their minds to dwell upon this illusion of time. So they dwell in what we call the past, which is an illusion. In other cases, some people get depressed or suicidal, etc., because they are worried about the future. They're so worried about what's going to happen because maybe stuff didn't go their way. Maybe they're in a lot of financial troubles. This happens as well. People take their own lives due to financial troubles. They're like, oh, I can't pay the bills. Oh, I'm going to lose my home. Quick, I got to take my life. There you go. Because of fear of what? The future. You see, what we want to do, what we want to practice for ourselves is to remain in the only time, in quotation marks, that we'll ever have, which is the now, which is right here, right now, in this very moment. And then if you learn to focus your mind in this very moment and just observe for the time being where you're really at, you're going to find out that many of the suffering that you have been experiencing is all made up by yourself. By you allowing yourself to dwell on the dead past, the illusory past, or the illusion of the future, of what may happen to you, what might happen, what may or may not come true for you that you desire to occur so much. You see, all our power lies in the present moment, in where we are right now. And it all depends, the quality of our lives and the direction of our lives is all dependent on what we are doing right now with our minds. And we're using our consciousness in order to progress. So for me, as I've said, there have been times where I would dwell too much on the past, and I started to notice this more and more. As I grow older, slowly but surely, I start to notice that this is kind of silly. Why am I allowing my mind to dwell on the past? There may have stuff happened that has been very negative, painful back then. It has no bearing on where I'm right now. But the more I would dwell on the past, the more it starts to make me feel bad in this present moment. Same with future things. If there's dreams and goals that I feel like I would like to achieve, I can perceive it in my consciousness and be like, okay, that seems like an interesting goal to dedicate my time to, and then let it go again and focus my mind in this present moment again. Because another, problem, mistake that people make, and that I have made myself, of course, is that you dwell too much on what you would like to achieve, and then in comparison to where you're at right now, you might get nervous and wonder, oh, is it really going to happen for me? Am I really going to be able to pull this off? And there you go. Again, the mind starts to dwell on stuff that it should not be dwelling on, because it's giving away your power to illusions, self-made illusions. The more you can analyze the fact that these concepts of time, days, don't exist, are not created naturally speaking, they're just created to make navigating this world a little bit easier for all of us. But then in that making it easier, consciousness became trapped in the labels. The more you realize that, the more you can break yourself free from this hidden, subtle spell that is on your mind. Because if you can just find your power in this present moment, then you realize it doesn't matter what day it is, it doesn't matter what time it is. You can always be happy. You can always be at peace within the depths of your being. Because it no longer depends on what day it is. Like, oh, it's the weekend, finally, I can enjoy myself again. No, it shouldn't matter. That's one of those traps, the subtle traps of the mind. It also shouldn't matter what time it is, where it's like, oh, in the past, things were so much better, and now in the present moment you feel bad because you consider the past better than your present circumstances. Or you might say, well, the future is going to be better, and so you don't enjoy the present moment again because something off in the distance that is not part of your existence right now supposedly will make you happier, so you gotta first pursue that before you'll be happy. So many people are going through these cycles like that until they realize to take a step back and realize, wait a minute, the only time I have is this present moment. How am I using the present moment? Is it in a good way or a bad way? And it is actually a bad way of using the present moment to dwell too much on your past or too much on the future. Because in both cases you're dealing with illusions. Stuff that has no longer any bearing on you unless you let it. Unless you give your power away to it. I've seen this happen with people who ended up taking their lives. That's the sad part. That's part of why I'm sharing this message. Where I have seen that they were just living their lives, but then before that they took their lives, it was clear that they were very emotionally distressed about what happened in their past, about stuff that occurred in their past. So a simple example I can give at least from personal experience concerning my mother who took her life, was that I noticed that before this all happened, more and more she seemed to convey this idea that her past seemed better than her present circumstances. And the more she started to spiral in that thought of the past being better than where she was right now, and then also worrying that the future is going to be terrible as well because of it, well, the more logical, in a strange way to most of us, it becomes to take your own life, because you can't see any happiness in the present moment. See, her mind was completely blinded by stuff that should not actually matter at all, but she couldn't see it that way, so she took her own life. The same thing happened with someone else a year ago, where I heard, well, this person in question tried to get help for some unresolved traumas, and as these traumas were brought to the surface, he became so panicked and disturbed that he took his own life in a state of complete, like, I don't know the right words, I would say insanity almost in a way. It was clear that he was just in a very bad spot mentally and emotionally because of all this, and just in the spur of the moment he just decided to end it all, and he did. Again, his mind in that case, because of the therapy, was dwelling on past traumas that needed to be resolved perhaps. I don't know the details, so I don't know exactly what went on there. But that is one of those potential dangers of certain therapies if they're not executed right, where the patient in question might be worse off than what was intended. So we have to be very careful also addressing traumas in some cases, because they can be so intense for people that it really messes with their inner well-being to such extremes that extreme measures might be considered by the individual in question. When in reality, I realized too with this person, if he could have taken a step back and disconnect his actual awareness from his ego, from his phantom self, then he would have been able to perceive that no matter what happened to him that was seemingly so terrible, it actually happened to his phantom self and not to the being that he really was, which is infinite awareness. And the same counts for my mother, and the same counts for me and you and everyone else on the planet. We have to learn to perceive and know who we really are, which is infinite awareness, having the experience of time, having the experience of going through the days, having the experience of going through bad and good situations. And all of it, the main point is that infinite awareness is having these experiences, so you don't have to take them nearly as serious as you used to. So it is very important to contemplate it for yourself as well, that there is no time. There are no days. They only exist within your own mind. And depending on how you make use of these concepts, they will either keep you in a state of peace, or they will start to drag you down into all kinds of negative states. People break up with that partner. They're like, oh, I miss my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my husband, my wife. If you were the one that feels like you were dumped by a partner, again, these are good moments to practice getting into the present moment. Because you feeling sad about someone leaving you means you're dwelling in the past. You see how fast and sudden this all happens. Now, it doesn't mean that being sad about certain events is wrong. Bad things happen to all of us. Depending on the situation, they might make you cry, it might make you feel sad, upset. But to realize as fast as you can, ideally, to train your mind to go back into the present moment will help you to overcome a lot of these struggles way faster and way more effectively as well. To know that, okay, this relationship, for example, is over. You can cry about it, moan about it, bitch about it, but, these supposed days and time goes on. So in reality, you should remember that if you are reminiscing the past and it's bad, for example, you're still doing that in the present moment. So depending on how you use this present moment will either make you feel more peaceful, make you more effective in navigating your life, or it's going to drag you down into darkness and pain and suffering. I think that's the main point of this video, to contemplate it for yourself, and I hope you'll do. And I hope it helps you out on this journey wherever you are in the world.